All right. Welcome. Welcome to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. As always, I'm your host, Adam Smith, with Just the Tips Coaching. That flash you saw, if you guys are catching the video cast, is not Adam, but is our co-host, our marketing director, one of our other coaches, all around superhuman, Mrs. Jen Waybor Hart. Welcome, Jen. There she is.
Hi, Adam.
A second time.
And
Jen, normally I would say we've got a really cool guest for everybody today, but yeah, we really don't. I'd like to apologize to our audience ahead of time for how awful our guest is this week. For those of you that have been paying attention to our social media, mine and our guests, he and I had a 2-week long bet going on, maybe even a little longer, about who would win the Denver Nuggets Minnesota Timberwolves playoff series that ended last night. It is coincidence that we have him on our show today. Just the timing is coincidence. We certainly want him on the show, or at least we did before the Nuggets dropped that game last night and ended their season, sending Nikola Jokic back to Serbia to play with his horses. Welcome to the show, mortgage broker, Minnesota Timberwolves fan, Ken Graysack. Hi, Ken.
Hey, how we doing today?
Yeah, not the warmest welcome we've given one of our guests, I assure you. I'm not going to spoil it for our audience so that they can see off the cuff what poor Adam has to do as the loser of that bet, but know that those things are in the works. The Timberwolves will be moving on when that occurs, but we'll just go ahead and let it ride. I'm not going to... Ken, you weren't playing you didn't play any minutes for them last night, did you?
No, not that.
Oh, okay, so I'm not going to blame you directly. But let's get back on track with what How I Met Your Mortgage is actually about, because it's not about Adam losing shitty bets and yeah, that's not the point and purpose of what we do here at How I Met Your Mortgage or at Just the Tips Coaching. But let's talk about Ken. Let's talk about Ken's business. Let's talk about Ken being what's probably the greatest mortgage broker in Minnesota these days. And I would have to say that the only reason that's true is because you've been through the Just the Tips program, right?
100%.
I mean, you were a scrub, a Serb, a plebe, a peon when we started. No, not really. But Ken, you are a mortgage broker, although that was not the case when we started working together. You were a mortgage banker. You were doing retail stuff and have had a pretty long mortgage originating career at this point. When did you actually get started?
It was February of 2002. So it's been... I was
going to say, wait a minute.
22 years.
The math doesn't jive there. That's good. I don't keep a calendar on the wall, but I was going to have to get on the computer and look, 2020, what? No. What year is it? Okay. All I know is it's not the year the Nuggets won the championship. So
no.
we'll I'm going to bring that up a bunch of times, I know, because I'm a little bitter about it. Not as bitter as I was about the Avalanche dropping that game after 5 periods with a late start to Matt Duchene, no less.
I just keep thinking about Greg, our current coaching client and friend, who, when we talked about doing the bet with him, he was like, wait, the Stars are in the playoffs? And he had absolutely no idea.
Yeah, in fact, that's funny. Yeah, the Stars and the Mavs are both playing in the Western Conference Finals for their respective leagues. And I sense that Ken and Greg are going to put a bet together about that series. So
we are working through it now.
Cool. We'll see what comes of that, because that'll be a lot of fun. Hey, Greg, if you're watching or listening, I hope you fucking win. Whatever it is, I hope you win. All right. So 22 years is a long time, Ken. I mean, you were basically a kid when you got started in the mortgage space. How did you get into the mortgage space? How did that come to pass?
Well, when I was younger, my mom was a single mom raising 3 kids, and my dad's still in my life, so it's not like my dad was not there. It's just we lived in Laramie, Wyoming, and she didn't know she could own a home, and so
that's our neck of the woods. Okay,
yeah, down by you guys.
Yeah.
So when I had the ability to try and help families get into homes that just kind of fit my story is helping people, and it's a blessing and a curse, because I will tend to work with people even if they can't get a home. I'm trying to help them get into those spots. But yeah, no, I have a big passion to helping people getting into homes for sure.
Okay. That's certainly a very big deal. In fact, it sounds like we're kind of on the precipice here of a TED Talk, right? I mean, literally, the greatest TED Talk speakers have that personal story, that personal connection, that personal drive, that why. And Ken's why is really big. That's obviously a very big deal. Very cool stuff. So did your mom end up buying a house in Wyoming?
No, so
Okay.
they live. She lives in Hutchinson, up here by where we're at with my stepdad. They're totally fine. It's just there's so many people that want to buy homes, that want home ownership, and they just don't know that first step. And being able to show people that first step is so important. And I put a lot of time and effort to at least show them the path to home ownership, which is a pretty big deal for folks. People don't want to get sold to. They want to just figure out what can I do next. And what I find is as loan officers, we all are like, let's get an application. Well, we have to start by how do we start that process of purchasing a home, and let's work through that. An application is part of it, but some people just need to understand what the steps are. So
I think you hit on something that's pretty valuable there. And we talk about it from time to time, although probably not enough. I talk about it in some of our video blog work, the weekly little tip for those of you that aren't catching that yet, or in certainly one or maybe both of the books I've written in the last few years. But there really are 2 types of sales out there. There's sales by manipulation. And man, the volume of people I'm seeing in the mortgage space, even after 60% fail to renew a license at the beginning of the year, I'm still seeing it. But the bigger, better, brighter, more important, greater longevity, more valuable piece is sales by problem solving, helping people out, giving education, helping them bridge gaps in their knowledge base, because the only people who really know every detail in and out about the mortgage space are the people that have been doing it for 60 hours a week for the last few decades, like you and I. And there are obviously, we have a ton of colleagues that I would put into that category as well. A lot of them have been on this show. A lot of them will already have dates booked to be on the show. Some of them have been on repeatedly. But it's definitely a very, very big deal. And if you're in the mortgage space, if you're in the real estate space, in fact, if you're in anything these days where we focus our efforts on people who have a direct-to-consumer gig for large ticket items, insurance, financial planning, family law, all kinds of different avenues, then education, information, helping people bridge gaps has got to be key. You can't just push them for an application. That's not how it works. Right. So I do think, in your words, I do think that that's really valuable shit to put in there. Okay, so let's get back into the Wayback Machine and go back to 2002. Where was the business coming from? How are you getting leads? Where were you getting clients?
So one of the first jobs that I had was basically we would go to the courthouse. We would get public information regarding higher interest rate lenders, and we would call in because at that time rates were coming down. So you had, 7-8% was the norm, and it would come down to 7, 6, 5. And so we were doing refinances for that. We would just reach out to people and work through those. And that's where the start of what I was doing was.
And you were getting that data off of the public records.
Correct.
And in a real old school fashion, you were actually getting it from the fucking courthouse.
100%.
Wow,
You're going to the courthouse,
that
reviewing
is
it.
wild. For those of
Microfiche.
you, yeah, for microfiche. For those of you that still have a thermal paper fax machine, there are a couple of systems out there, and of course, this is all public record. And if we know anything about AI, for example, what we do know is that computers know everything we've ever told them. So Pacer, public access for court records. Those kinds of things do exist out there, so you don't actually have to go to the courthouse to do that. But yeah, you probably did 22 years ago. So that's really that's actually really cool. Jen, I don't think we've ever had anybody say that they were tapping public records at the courthouse to generate leads. Interesting tactic.
The crazy part about I remember the office that I was in, there was, I think, maybe 8 or 9 loan officers, and there was one computer. And that was a big deal to have an email address, and all these things that we like are at our disposal right now that we just, I've got 2 computers here in my office right now.
Yeah, same. Yeah, and the phone, and the tablet, and right. Yeah, and all of them have my email on it, right?
Yeah.
Even my watch.
So that's pretty interesting in itself. So, pulling credit, doing I think our initial disclosure package was like one of those carbon copies where the truth in lending was a carbon copy thing that you just filled in by hand.
Press hard. You're making copies.
Hard, yep. It's just your APR is anywhere from 3 to 13%.
Right.
It's just crazy.
This is fascinating. Okay, so let me ask you this. Of the people that you refinanced in 2002 that were based on data pulled from court records at the actual courthouse, are they still in your contact management system today?
I have a good chunk of people that are still in the database.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah,
okay.
Super cool.
I'm hoping, and really I'm telling our audience that because, yeah, I could go back through my contact database. In fact, I could probably target the small handful of people, maybe a dozen, 15, that came with me when I left my brokerage and started my own. And that was 19 years ago this past week. And I could identify those people that I was working on at the time I started my brokerage. Obviously, I could go back and identify the people that I was working on when I was a broker employee and not a broker owner. But yeah, this is part of that. We really have to nurture forever, decades, relationships. We have to nurture those relationships. And yeah, some of them I am still really, really close with after 20 plus years. It's wild. It's wild. Right. But yeah, very, very valuable stuff. I want to know how many of those people that you had originally pulled from court records way back when you had to go to the courthouse and you guys had one computer and maybe a thermal fax machine with the giant rolls of paper. Right? I know this is crazy stuff. We're having like monster flashbacks. This is all before Jen was born, by the way. So Jen was not born in the fax era. So that one's really interesting as well. She was. She's not as young as she looks, or we pretend.
I never sent a fax. There were faxes when I was, little. I was 12 when Ken got into mortgages, but I never sent a fax.
Well, I'm going to be
there
honest.
There was an app on my phone that I sent a fax using, but that's as close as I can.
All right, Ken wasn't that much older,
right?
Yeah, Ken wasn't much older than 12 when he got into the mortgage business. So.
I wish.
But yeah, very, very cool stuff. All right. So I know we don't really talk about it on the show because it's not my forte. We get asked a lot, and I can give one side of the tale, as it were. But you're a fairly recent mover from banker to broker, from retail to wholesale.
100%. Yeah.
How difficult was that change?
So when I started, I was a broker up until about 2008, 2009. And that's
different animal then.
Yeah. It's a poor correspondent thing happened. Getting back into the broker situation, the lenders are way more accommodating to us as loan officers.
Sure.
Back then it was like they've got anybody that to work with. But the transition, it's difficult, like any other thing where you've got new systems that you got to learn. But at the same point, I mean, it's business as usual now. It's just a different way of doing things. So,
how long has it been? When did you actually make that change?
It was December 7th of 2023.
Okay. So, yeah,
I broke my wrist 1 week later.
Okay.
That's how I remember.
Yeah, because nice and easy. You didn't have anything going that day.
No.
You may as well throw your physical world into turmoil. That's always a good one. We here at Just the Tips Coaching do not endorse that. If you do want to make the change into the wholesale space, into the broker space, we're certainly happy to give you the ins and outs. I'd be willing to bet Ken would as well. However, we do not endorse inflicting self-bodily harm immediately after. We're going to refrain from that going forward, no question. All right, and how about now? Let's talk a little bit, because we've got to be a couple of years, maybe even longer, since you started working with us on your lead gen work, on coaching, on team structure, so on and so forth. What's different today? Where does the business come from? What are you doing to stay in front of people? What are you highlighting? And this is funny because I know the answers, and we have a colleague in your market, sort of, hopefully Steve's alive and kicking, who is really watching you like a hawk to see where your success comes from. But yeah, what do you think you're doing differently over the last, say, 3 to 5 years that was influenced by us, by this regimen, by having the structure?
So I guess one of the big things is I have a database that I worked, but I didn't work it as well as I do now. So there's certain key pieces, contacting past clients every 3 months, that type of stuff. So I was not doing that previous to 3 years ago. That's number one thing. Social media is another big thing. I saw social media as just having fun with friends, and I've now taken more of an approach to social media where it's a way to build brand and build exposure to what I'm trying to do. I still have people that don't really remember that I'm a loan officer, which is crazy, but for the most part, everybody knows that what I do. So I think those are the two big things: database and social medias are the two things that I'm a huge Canva person. I never knew what Canva was previous to you
Jen.
guys. To Jen,
So
yeah.
proud.
Thank you, Jen.
So
proud.
Yeah. But it's all about building relationships and gaining stories and knowing the right people to work with. Because at the end of the day, not everybody's going to work great with everybody. So understanding those pieces. One of the things you guys talk a lot about is the classes. At some point, I'll get the nerve to do classes. For some reason, I haven't done classes, which you guys are not the only ones that are telling me I need to do classes, because I know a lot of stuff, but I want it to be perfect. But for the most part, I think database and social are the two big things.
I don't think I can open TikTok without seeing videos of yours, Ken. So
I can't.
Always
get on
a little proud when
platform.
I see him.
Yeah, I can't get on a social platform without seeing Ken. No question, which is great. And Ken, you really kind of mentioned a few things that we think are really, really important. One of them is that, yes, without equivocation, all of you that think you're using social media, you're not. You're a social media content consumer. You're not focusing on it as a social media content creator. And one of those things is that you've got to let go of the fact that social media is social. It is not social. You need to be intentional. You've got to be intentional about your social media. What you're posting, when you're posting, how you're posting, all the other little things, who you're tagging, geolocating, hashtags, on and on. There are all kinds of things that you've got to focus on. And obviously that's a lot of the work, no question. Those kinds of things. And actually, it's really funny because you probably saw, and I know the only person I probably see more on that particular platform than you is Ben Lav. And for those of you watching, go back and find, because we've had Ben Lavender, sorry, not just B-Lav. Ben Lavender has been on the show a number of times with us. And the last time he was on was probably still this year. And he talked a lot about short form video. But one of the things he said in that episode that really struck a chord is that social media is a drip campaign. So you meet somebody new, you exchange socials, you add them to that audience, and you have basically put them into a social media drip campaign. Okay. I think that's really valuable stuff. Thank you, Ben. And I really hope that everybody can kind of cling on to that concept because it's a big one. I do also think that one of the really big things that Ken brought up that we talk about incessantly is that in theory, hopefully you're doing this right, your audience already knows what you do. They want to know who you are. And your shift in social media, once you grasped onto that concept, was monumental. No. I'm not sure I ever would have known what a big Timberwolves fan you are. I'm not sure I would have known that your son was such a basketball fan. I'll bet he is going to die when he sees what I have to do here after leaving.
He's very curious as to what you're going to be doing. That's for sure.
Damn.
It's like, what does he have to do?
Oh, no. Yeah, I've had a bunch of people ask me. And I'm like, well, it's a secret. You'll have to see it because we don't want to spoil that. And the Timberwolves are going to love it. So, yes, congratulations to the T-Wolves organization and advancing to the Western Finals and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Enough of that. So, Ken, is this stuff now having a huge impact for you? Your business has probably shifted to where it's strictly repeat and referral. Yep. You're not buying leads. You don't have an ad on a bus bench.
Nope.
No. Okay. I still see that here in Denver, by the way. And it's always kind of been interesting to me because I'm not sure that people riding the bus are buying homes.
I think
no.
But I have a play on the social on the buses though.
Okay.
Mortgage. How many times do you see a mortgage person on a bus? I'm not saying that I'm going to do it.
No.
Normally you see real estate agents.
Yeah.
Right. So if a mortgage person puts themselves on a bus, yes, mortgage person puts himself on a bus. Who's going to be looking at that? Real estate agents, because they're always looking at the benches. Just an idea.
Oh, okay.
Not that I'm doing it, but I'm just saying.
But we do talk a lot about referral partner techniques and tactics as well when it comes to lead gen. And I'm willing to bet that has shifted for you as well.
Yeah.
Right? Because we talk about that. And yes, I understand that agents and loan originators, you guys have got to be in each other's pocket. You got to have relationships. You got to love on each other. And I do. There's no question. I mean, even just recently, while I went to that long, painful Avalanche game with a real estate agent. Actually, I went with a real estate agent, a title rep, and an insurance broker.
Yeah.
So it pretty much like ran the gamut of everybody that we work with at Just the Tips. And let's see, the next morning on virtually no sleep, I went and taught a class on reverse mortgages with a real estate agent that we do a lot of work with, who's also a former coaching client here at Just the Tips. So yeah, I get that. But when we talk about it, and for those of you, no spoilers here. So for those of you that are in our coaching program and have not yet gone through the referral partner module, I just need you to understand that while that relationship has to exist, if you ask me to make a list of the top 10 potential referral partners for a real estate agent or a loan originator, neither of you would be on that list. I can easily come up with 9 that I would prefer to a real estate agent. And a real estate agent should be able to come up with 9 that they would prefer to a loan originator for all kinds of reasons, but mostly the psychological ones. You need to be involved in that process when the psychological triggers that lead to the buying and selling, that lead to the buying and refinancing of homes occur. Those agents, the ones I just mentioned, all of you out there, I love you guys. Truly, with all my heart. I constantly talk about the old Paul Harvey monologue, God loves a realtor. You wake up every day unemployed. It's a brutal job, and good on you for doing it, especially if you're doing it well. But you refer me a piece of business, a buyer-borrower, the decision to buy a home's already been made.
Right.
I want to be involved when the triggers that lead to that decision are being made, and you guys all should too. All right. So yeah, referral partners is certainly a big one that we talk about as well. And Ken, you're also a published author.
Yeah.
We work on writing modules. We talk about being a contributor. We talk about being a source. We talk about being an actual author of a book. No. Hold that shit back up. I want everybody to see that again. How to buy your first home in Minnesota. This is really cool stuff, ladies and gentlemen. If you and it's not just Minnesota. Ken's, that's his market. But if you have an interest in buying a home, that is a great read, especially if you've never bought one. And Ken, if memory serves, you're working on another one.
I'm working on all sorts of stuff.
All sorts of stuff. But yeah, if memory serves, we were going to go down the path of writing a book on how to build a real estate portfolio, how to take that house you bought in Minnesota, convert it to a rental, buy your next primary, rinse and repeat, and you actually now have a portfolio of real estate, which we all know. Everybody listening, watching knows this is how we build generational wealth. This is how we build financial stability. Every one of those properties is going to propel you to a new level of financial success, et cetera, et cetera. So, geez, Ken, it seems like you got a lot out of the Just the Tips program.
Just a little bit.
All right. This is really killer stuff. And yeah, we love loan originator clients. We do. Without equivocation, some of our favorites, although family attorneys, divorce attorneys is getting high on that list. They're just not happy people. They see a lot of shit. They see a lot of horrible human behavior. So that one's really rough. And yeah, obviously the content spans across all kinds of different lines there. But let's get back to Ken, because what is Ken going to work on next? What is the rest of this year going to bring? What is next year going to bring? What are you going to implement? What is going on with Ken eventually building a business he can walk away from while it still pays him, which is the goal for all of our coaching clients?
So I've actually, the big thing that I'm working on right now is understanding the NAR situation.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Lot of stuff that we've processed as systems in place to try and help real estate agents as buyers are going through that process of trying to understand it as well. And same thing on the listing side of things, but growing out a team as well. My wife is now my assistant, which helps. Moving into a new space that I'm currently in right now is nice because it's away from home. And sorry.
Wow, she's really tolerant. Married to you and willing to work with you
in the mortgage space.
All right.
Yeah. So the idea is to grow out systems in place. Systems and process is a huge thing. And being able to put people in there. I have an assistant that helps me with the social media, and just trying to offload non-green tasks is an important piece. So we're constantly looking to grow that the team as a whole.
You and I can have this conversation, but tell our audience what you mean by non-green tasks.
Non-green tasks to me is something where I'm not physically talking to somebody about just doing business together.
High dollar activity.
Yep.
Yeah. You probably still have your chess clock.
I do have the chess clock. It's not on my. It's not here, but I do have it. Yes.
All right. We'll save that for another episode, and we will certainly do that as well. Jen, what are we missing? I mean, we could talk about this kind of stuff with Ken for hours and hours. In fact, we did. We probably had him on board for 18 months, give or take, an hour a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to remember when you wrapped up coaching, Ken. Do you remember?
I think it was March of last year. I think we started in October. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because we booked this episode of the podcast as you were wrapping up. So that makes sense.
A year ago.
And we were typically booking 15 months out. So
wild.
So crazy,
that's
right?
Really cool.
That end up today.
That time goes. See, so
well,
you are really
cool.
old.
It's been really cool watching you implement things that we taught you too, Ken.
Yeah.
Obviously, you and I spent a lot of time on Canva. I think you're one of the only coaching clients I've seen really embrace Canva. It's a beast in its own, so that's been really cool to watch just come to fruition. So,
well, I think that's a big part of it. I think the team structure. Let's not just talk about your wife, but Julie. And credit to Julie for everything she does for us, for our coaching clients, so on and so forth. Big props there. She is killer. So yeah, these kinds of things, watching you adopt and implement, and then frankly kind of accelerate beyond what we showed you. and make it your own has also been really, really cool. And I think it's important to know that a lot of what we bring to the table, what we give to our coaching clients, is shit you already knew. You just didn't quite know how to take the first step. You didn't quite know how to structure it, how to systemize, how to automate, those kinds of things. But I think the majority of our brethren out there, and this is true of all of you that have a direct-to-consumer sales gig, you know what you need to be doing. You're just not doing it.
We're not doing enough of it.
And or not doing it in a better way, a more systemized way, automated way. But yeah, I don't think it's a secret. I think most of these people, and there was a time where it was Adam included, and obviously Ken included, we know what we need to be doing. We just need to actually go do it.
100%.
So, yeah, like with your next book.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Keep
Right?
working through it.
Like with teaching classes.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I'm gonna rat you out to Chad Prio here. Chad's gonna have it with you. And for those of you that don't know Chad, he wrote a book titled Taking Imperfect Action: The Art of Getting Shit Done. And we could all use a little bit more of that. Let's all take imperfect
100%.
action. It will get better as we go on. All right. So I really think we have to rebook Ken for another episode, Jen, because there are obviously hours and hours of things we could talk about when it comes to Ken's business and his lead gen and his team structure and all the other things that we focus on here at Just the Tips, because he was a recipient of that and has then kind of made it his own, adopted, implemented, shaped it into what fits Ken best. And I'll bet there are a lot of people out there that would prefer to do it the way Ken does it than the way Adam does it, or the way Jen does it, or the way any of our past or current coaching clients do it. So having a different perspective, a different shape, a different form is really kind of cool stuff. Am I missing anything else? I know we're over time. I see you.
I mean, I'm wondering when Ken's going to make it back to Denver.
Yes.
I even offered him a ticket to that game last night.
Well, we have social media day coming up in a month,
Next
and
month.
of course, Mile High Mastermind. So, I mean, I'm
Mile High Mastermind has got I've got to make Mile High Mastermind for sure.
Yeah, that's a big one, especially. And the thing about Mile High Mastermind now, and I know you've seen it. Were you there last year? I don't know.
No.
So. Great event. And again, props to the University of Denver for hosting and working with us every year, and to everybody who participates, speakers and sponsors, etc. But one of the things I really noticed this past year, because of the redundancy of the audience, people keep coming back and back every year, is that we started to see a lot of people bring team members, junior LOs, assistants, whatever. And they love the content, but it's next level for them. It's a lot of people will be like, hey, this is really great stuff, but how do I start? Because this is going to be what, our 8th mastermind? The Mile High Mastermind is 7 or 8? 8?
It's at least 8.
I
think last year was 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we keep advancing the content. So for the people that are attending it for the very first time, a lot of it is higher level stuff than they're prepared to adopt and implement without a little bit of a stepping stone on getting started. So yeah, that's really been a lot of fun when it comes to the mastermind, is that we've really been able to talk about cutting edge, next level. What is the world of lead generation for a loan originator or a real estate agent going to look like in 2025?
Right.
And that's what we'll talk about here in the fall of 24. Social media day looks like it's coming together with I
saw that
some killer traction here.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about speakers and sponsors. I know you still wanted me to bother a bunch of people about getting their tickets. I'll do that this week, I promise.
Procrastinators.
Hey, procrastinators of the world, unite tomorrow. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, maybe we'll get to see Ken here either in June or September or both, which would be really cool. And by then the impact of last night's debacle will have worn off. Actually, probably
I bet
won't.
Ken will make sure it stings again when he sees you in person, even if it's 2025.
Especially after we make public what I'm going to do here after losing the bet.
Can't wait for that.
All right. So I'm going to end there. Look, for whatever is going on, go check out socialmediadaydenver.com if you want to get tickets to that event on June 14th at the Auraria campus. Big thanks to Metropolitan State University for putting that together, and some other wonderful sponsors that are involved with that. If you want to find out more about what we do at Just the Tips, then you can go check out justthetipscoaching.com, and you'll be able to find information about Mile High Mastermind, the books I've written, this show, the weekly little tip video blog, and probably all kinds of other crap because we've been doing this for so long. It's just on autopilot for me. Write script.
Yes.
Do podcast. Right. Here we are. So for those of you new to How I Met Your Mortgage, you can catch us live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube on Mondays at 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern, and 48 hours later, the podcast releases on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. Ken, thanks for doing it, man. I know carving out this kind of time on a Monday morning is not easy, especially when we booked you out 30 years ago or whatever the case was. Back when you started in the mortgage business. But yeah, this was great. So thanks for doing it. We'll get you booked again. And I guess at this point, go Wolves. After what you did to my Nuggets, you better take it all.
Yes.
And yeah,
I'm going for the Mavs. Sorry.
Oh my God.
Well, Jen grew up in Dallas.
I grew up in Dallas.
Yeah.
Ah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Ooh, maybe the two of you should have a bet.
I'm not doing what you're doing, Adam. Absolutely not.
Be a different bet.
Maybe.
All
If
right.
Greg doesn't do it, maybe.
All right. Oh, Greg, we're looking at you. You better step it up and save Jen then, buddy. All right. So that's it for this episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. Tune in next week for another episode. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in live, watching or listening live or in syndication, and we'll see you next time.